There is a certain kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. You can retreat into the darkness of your room, pull the blankets over your head, and drift into 8 hours of unconsciousness, yet wake up feeling just as heavy as when you lay down. This weight isn't held in your muscles or your bones. It resides somewhere much deeper, in the very marrow of your being. It is the sensation of your soul carrying invisible luggage, bags packed with years of unspoken words, deferred dreams, and the quiet burdens of others that you simply cannot find a place to put down. When people ask you what's wrong, you find yourself grasping at shadows because there is no single catastrophic event to point to. It wasn't one lightning strike that broke you. It was the slow, steady erosion of 1,000 tiny raindrops, each one quietly draining your reservoir of spirit until there was nothing left but a hollow echo. The quiet drain of existence. Those who find themselves tired of existing aren't necessarily looking for an exit from life itself. More often, they are simply desperate for the noise to stop. We live in a world that is deafeningly loud, filled with the constant static of expectations, the relentless pressure of comparison, and the exhausting requirement to perform okayness. Every day feels like a stage play where you didn't audition for the lead role, yet you are forced to recite lines that feel foreign to your heart. Psychologists recognize this state as emotional exhaustion. It is a threshold where the mind essentially goes on strike. This isn't a sign of weakness or a lack of character. It is a state of pure depletion. It occurs when your emotional output has stayed in the red for far too long, when you have been giving, fixing, and surviving without any meaningful input to replenish your core. On the surface, a person in this state can look remarkably functional. They show up to work, they offer polite smiles, and they fulfill their obligations with a mechanical precision. But inside, the world has gone silent. Colors seem less vibrant, and joy feels like a language you used to speak fluently but can now only vaguely remember. This isn't just a mood, it is a biological reality. Under the crushing weight of prolonged stress, the brain begins to rewire itself for basic survival. It starts filtering every experience through the lens of fatigue, slowing down its reward systems to conserve what little energy remains. Your dopamine responses weaken, and that inner spark, the one that makes life feel like an adventure rather than a chore, fades out like a dying light bulb. The biological shield of the soul. When you tell someone, "I'm just tired," and they tell you to take a nap, they are missing the depth of your truth. This isn't laziness. It is your mind's way of saying it has been carrying too much for too long. Behind every weary soul is a story of immense effort. Ironically, the people who feel this the most are often the strongest. The peacemakers, the reliable friends, the ones who always have it together for everyone else. They have mastered the art of surviving in chaos, but in the process, they have forgotten how to rest in peace. We exist in a culture that treats productivity as a virtue and rest as a sin. You are celebrated for the hours you log and the fires you put out, but rarely are you praised for the quiet days you take to simply exist without a purpose. This societal conditioning creates a toxic cycle of guilt. We learn to equate our human worth with our movement, our output, and our utility to others. When the body finally demands a halt, the mind whispers that we are failing. It tells us we haven't earned the right to stop. But that is the ultimate paradox of modern life. If you wait until you have finished everything that needs to be done to rest, you will never rest. There is always another task, another expectation, another fire to extinguish. So, you keep running, even as your legs grow heavy and you forget why you even started the race. This cumulative fatigue is the result of years of emotional suppression. Every "I'm fine" that was a lie, every tear that was swallowed to avoid making others uncomfortable, and every boundary that was crossed for the sake of harmony. The grayscale of Anhedonia. There is a specific psychological term for the feeling of being emotionally muted, anhedonia. It isn't necessarily sadness, it is emptiness. It is living in a world of grayscale where even the things that used to bring you light now feel neutral. This is a self-preservation tactic of the brain. When the world has been too loud or too painful, the mind stops reaching for joy because it has learned that joy can be snatched away. It feels safer to expect nothing than to risk the disappointment of feeling something. This leads to a natural pulling away from the world. Social interaction becomes an expensive luxury you can no longer afford. Even small talk feels like trying to climb a mountain without oxygen. You cancel plans, you stay silent in group chats, and you seek solitude not because you hate people, but because your nervous system is simply at its limit. Isolation in this context isn't a symptom of a broken person. It is a form of shelter. When the storm outside is too fierce, the only logical thing to do is find a cave. And while the silence of that cave might feel lonely, at least it doesn't demand anything from you. It is the only place where you don't have to perform. However, this state also brings with it a terrifying sense of meaning fatigue. When you lose touch with the why of your life, the how becomes unbearable. You look at the routine, wake up, work, scroll, sleep, and you start to wonder what the point of the repetition is. This question isn't a sign of hopelessness. It's actually an awakening. It is the soul signaling that it can no longer survive on a diet of obligations and routines. The search for the why. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the unimaginable horrors of the concentration camps, famously observed that humans can endure almost any hardship if they have a why. He argued that meaning is the primary drive of our existence. When we feel tired of existing, it is often because our life has become misaligned with our truth. The tiredness is a messenger. It is telling you that you have outgrown a version of yourself, a job, a relationship, or a lifestyle that no longer fits who you are becoming. This realization is painful, but it is also the beginning of freedom. It means that the exhaustion isn't a curse, it's a compass. It is pointing you toward the parts of your life that need to be reclaimed or released. When you finally admit that you are tired of existing, something shifts. You stop trying to fix the fatigue with more caffeine, more goals, or more distractions. You finally become honest with yourself. This honesty is the foundation of healing. You begin to realize that you aren't looking for more movement, you are looking for more meaning. Meaning doesn't have to be a grand, world-changing purpose. It can be found in the quietest moments of life. The way the light hits a brick wall in the evening, the comfort of a specific song, or the simple act of breathing without needing to justify your existence to anyone. These are the tiny anchors that remind us that life is something to be felt, not just managed. Reclaiming the self through awe. One of the most profound ways to combat this deep existential weariness is through the cultivation of awe. Psychological studies have shown that experiencing moments of wonder, whether through nature, art, or deep connection, can actually lower levels of burnout and increase life satisfaction. Awe forces us to look outside our own exhaustion and reconnect with the vastness of existence. It reminds us that while our burdens are real, we are part of something much larger. It could be as simple as looking at the stars or writing a letter to your younger self, acknowledging how hard you've worked to get here. As you begin to heal, you will notice that your energy doesn't return all at once. It comes back in waves. You start to laugh again, not because you've fixed everything, but because you've made peace with the mess. You realize that you don't have to be perfect to be worthy of rest. You stop comparing your timeline to the curated lives of others and start listening to the rhythm of your own heart. This path requires a gentle surrender, the courage to stop pushing and start listening. It involves treating yourself with the same compassion you have always offered to everyone else. The beginning of living differently. Ultimately, being tired of existing isn't the end of your story. It's the prologue to a different way of living. It is the moment you decide that you will no longer live for the performance. You start to value alignment over achievement and peace over productivity. You become one of those compassionate souls who understands pain without needing an explanation because you have walked through the valley of shadows yourself. You learn that honesty is the only thing that truly heals, and that admitting your weakness is actually your greatest act of strength. If you are currently in that place where the world feels grey and the weight feels too heavy, please know that you are not broken. Your soul is simply asking for a new direction. You don't have to fix your whole life today. You just have to listen to the tiredness. Let it be the signal that allows you to stop running. Take a breath, let the mask fall away, and realize that you are enough exactly as you are, even when you have nothing left to give. The journey back to yourself doesn't start with a giant leap. It starts with a single honest breath and the permission to finally, truly rest.